Welcome to Engine Adventures. Today, the 2020 Toyota Tacoma TRD Pro. So as you can see right now, fog lights are on, headlights are not. I get made fun of by my wife for that, but I did end up in a snowstorm once and tried to use my fog lights, but I had to have my headlights on in order for my fog lights to work, which made it a little bit harder to see. Anyway, back to this. All right, so off-road, this thing eats up the bumps pretty good. It's definitely not as smooth as the Land Cruiser. It's maybe on par with the Tundra. The Tundra might even have been a little bit smoother. But this is smoother than most other vehicles. That Tundra was really smooth. The Nissan Pro 4X, Nissan Frontier Pro 4X, this is a little bit smoother than that. The suspension definitely has better control and better travel than that one did. Jogger on the trail here. Alright, sorry, back to it. So this thing does have great suspension for running, higher speeds over rougher terrain. It's not Raptor level, but it is more maintained dirt and gravel roads. So these are big bumps, no bottoming out or anything. I try to run every vehicle at about 20 miles an hour over this. Some vehicles I can't. This one I'm doing about 25. So it's not bad. Really well controlled.
In two-wheel drive without the auto LSD turned on, it takes a lot of wheel spin for the traction control to kick in and transfer power to the tire that has traction, but it is able to do it, and it does a pretty good job. Wasn't quite able to crest this hill though. With the auto LSD on, it seemed like there was a little bit less wheel spin, but really not that much of a difference, and it still wasn't able to make this climb. If I were able to engage the rear locker, it would have made this. In four-wheel drive, it's immediately apparent how much more traction there is, and it does transfer power a little bit better. You see how little the wheels slip, and able to make this climb no problem. Notice how much wheel articulation there is here. It's really hard to even get a wheel off the ground with this thing because there is so much articulation. In four-wheel drive low, you can lock the rear differential, but I left it open here because of how much traction there was. You can see that it hardly slips at all. It just climbs right up this, no problem. Underneath, everything's well protected and out of the way. Anything that can be harmed is covered with some sort of skid plate. The fuel tank, for example, has that metal skid plate on it, and it's very well covered.
All right, so I wanted to go over everything real quick. We're in two-wheel drive. Here is your traction control button. If I push it once, you get the traction control off, auto LSD, vehicle stability control off, and the pre-collision brakes off. Then if you hold it down, you get track off instead of auto LSD. So the auto LSD just breaks a spinning wheel. If you're in 2-wheel drive, it's just going to break the one wheel. And then track off just turns that off entirely. And then we go to 4-wheel drive, turn that, pops this up, and it will go solid once it's in 4-wheel drive. And looks like we're gonna have to move. There it goes. Not sure why the traction control came on there. Okay, so now we're in 4-wheel drive. Same track button. First time you hit it, it goes to track off. Then if you hit it and hold it down, turns off the vehicle stability control and the pre-collision. If you try and hit the rear diff lock, it just yells at you. And you can't use any of the multi-terrain select or the crawl control. You have to be in 4-wheel drive low for that. So the next one, put it into neutral, shift it into 4-wheel drive low, and it actually went in really quick. So then when you're in 4-wheel drive low, it automatically turns track off, vehicle stability control, traction control, and the pre-collision assist. So it turns all that off, and you can't turn it back on. I'm holding the button down. It just stays off. But now you can choose multi-terrain select, of which there are 5 modes. You have mud and sand, loose rock, mogul, rock and dirt, and rock. So starting from the left, this is the least restrictive as far as applying the brakes and stuff. The traction control intervenes the least, and then as you go through, it intervenes a tiny bit, intervenes kind of a mediocre amount, quite a bit, and then this is like the full engagement for slow speed rock crawling. And then when you're in 4 low, you can also hit the diff lock, and you can see it not quite locked, so throw it in drive. These electronic diff locks require a slight amount of movement usually, maybe a lot of movement in this case. There it goes. Sorry about that. So now it's, you can see right there, the diff lock's on. And you can also do crawl control. So you just push the button here for crawl control, set your speed with that same dial that you use for the multi-terrain select, and put it in drive, take your foot off the brake, and it's just driving on its own. And you can adjust the speed. Usually the faster you go, the less noise there is from the ABS pumps. So I upped it to level 3 out of 5. Right here we're gonna get crossed up, and then you'll hear the pump, ABS pump, start running again. Not a lot, there's a little bit there. So that's how all those systems work. That does kind of suck. You have to be in 4-wheel drive low to have your rear diff lock on. The Ford and Ram do not have to have it that way, and the Nissan Frontier does. So these little trucks seem to require that more. I'm not sure on the Gladiator. I believe the Mojave version is different. You can be in 4 high. The Rubicon, I believe you have to be in 4 low, but then you can lock front and rear. So anyway, that's the run through on how this system works. Let's go ahead and get some outside shots. One more thing, crawl control also works in reverse. So you can use it as the downhill assist, which it doesn't have its own separate button for the downhill assist. So I think that's a good idea. I mean, the crawl control works great for that. I mean, it is a little jerky, kind of annoying, but it definitely provides really good control. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump back into 2-wheel drive, and then we will, everything's freaking out now. Okay, let's get some outside shots.
So I've never had a vehicle make this in 2-wheel drive. As far as 2-wheel drive vehicles go, there are some that I've been able to lock the rear differential on, and they've all made it about this far. So time to switch it into 4-wheel drive. So you can see here in four-wheel drive high, it is transferring power side to side. It does struggle a little bit, and I do believe I had to go full throttle or close to it, but it does make it up the hill in four-wheel drive high. It was just a little bit of a struggle. One thing I like about the track off in the Tacoma is that it actually is off. So if you're in a sand or mud or other slick situation, you can just power on through it. You don't have to worry about the traction control cutting power or breaking the spinning wheels and slowing you down. And of course, my favorite systems are always mechanical, so having a mechanical locking rear differential is the best for me, and it climbs this no problem at all. Just demonstrating again that crawl control works in reverse as well as in drive. Without multi-terrain select on, there was a lot more wheel spin, so even in this mud and sand mode, it still applied the brakes to the spinning wheels a little bit to transfer power where it needed to, whereas when multi-terrain select was off, it just didn't try to do that at all. And as we go through these modes, it starts with the least aggressive on the traction control and goes to the most aggressive on the, I guess, A track, not traction control. And so as we go through each one, you'll see that there's a little bit less wheel spin each time, and it's just a little bit more controlled on the slow speed crawl as we progress. Crawl control can be used with or without the rear differential lock on. You just have to be in four-wheel drive low. So here in this first part, I'm trying it without the rear diff lock on, and surprisingly it struggles quite a bit to make it up this. I mean, the Land Cruiser did this just fine with the crawl control, and it does not have a rear diff lock. But in a second here, I will engage the rear diff lock, and it'll make it up this no problem. So I have crawl control on speed 1, and it's not moving. Says crawl has been deactivated. Let me try that again. Crawl control, speed 1. There it goes. That was weird. And that does it for the Tacoma TRD Pro off-road video. As far as off-road driving goes, the Tacoma is very capable. There's a lot of wheel travel. It's very smooth over big bumps and dips, and it has decent power, especially when you're in four-wheel drive low. You don't have to worry about the power as much. And when you're driving on road, it the torque doesn't come on until high RPMs, and so it does require a lot more throttle input for on-road driving and towing. But off-road, this thing is just a beast. If you are going to be lifting it or making significant modifications, and maybe don't get the TRD Pro, because a big factor in this vehicle is the Fox suspension or the Fox shocks that come with it, and those are very expensive, so you might as well just get a TRD off-road and then modify it, lift it, and get the right size shocks for your lift kit. Overall, loved it. If you liked what you saw, hit subscribe, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give me a thumbs down and comment down below, let me know why. And have a great day.